And welcome, sports fans, to the season premiere of the Sports Roundtable here on YHC. We're going to get underway with our fourth season of the Roundtable, and a lot to get to today, especially with high school football. First week of high school football last night, and we'll be getting to that in just a moment. But just to give you the details of our show, live every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. this week going all the way through May. We pretty much stick to the school year, and we'll be here every Saturday morning, 10 a.m., right here on YHC Channel 21, as well as online at yhctv.com. And we're going to be making a lot of additions and upgrades to the Roundtable this year, such as the set here. Probably in a month's time or so, we'll have a totally new set to bring to you here on the Roundtable, as well as additional features that we'll be adding to the show as well. So a lot coming to this year's Roundtable this season, so look forward to that in about a month or so once we get those changes made. So a lot more coming to the Roundtable show this year. Be sure to look forward to it each Saturday right here on YHC. And of course, we have the replays throughout the weekend and through Tuesday of the next week. So plenty of opportunities to catch the Roundtable here on YHC. And you can email us throughout our show, sports@yhctv.com. We have the emails open where you can email your thoughts on what we're talking about. Want to give a shout out to teams, players out there, or just anything in general. Just email it to us, sports@yhctv.com, and we'll take your emails right here over the air. And let's go to some scores from last night, starting out with high school football. And week one's underway last night. St. Genevieve defeated Dexter up in St. Gen 47-14. And this has been a great rivalry going back a few years between these two teams when it comes to district play. And St. Genevieve just had more manpower last night over the Bearcats. Bearcats, a very young team that they're putting on the field this year, losing, I believe it's 18 starters from last year's 9-1 team in the season. Well, finished with 2 losses, but finished the regular season 9-1. And St. Genevieve coming back with a lot of talent and a lot of strength, too. A lot of size and strength. Just a little bit too much for the Bearcats last night, 47-14. Victors are the Dragons. And Poplar Bluff got a big win last night over Union, 33-0. Got a nice start to their season with a shutout over Union out of St. Louis. Also, we've got Jackson over North County, 48-21. Victory for the Jackson Indians, and it's been quite some time since the Jackson Indians got off to a 1-0 start. They've struggled over the past few years, and hopefully we'll see better things out of the Jackson Indians this year. Also, John Burroughs, a victory over Cape Central, 43-14. John Burroughs having a stellar program over the past few seasons. Won the state championship a few years ago. Runner-up last year, and quite a season for John Burroughs, starting out already against Cape Central. Fredericktown defeating Kennett 40-18, and these teams playing in the same district over the past few years. Not used to seeing them in the first week, but Fredericktown, a nice victory over the Kennett Indians, 40-18 at Kennett last night. Also, we've got Sykeston over Charleston, big rivalry over the years, and I think it's one of the longest rivalries in the state of Missouri. And Sykeston got that victory, 27-14, and that was a closer game that we've seen over the past few years. Of course, Sykeston having one of the best programs in southeast Missouri, making it quite far in the state playoffs at the end of each year. Charleston coming along, getting stronger by the year. Put forth a nice effort last night. I heard Sykeston had quite a few turnovers in that game, still being able to pull that out. I think they had 5 or 6 turnovers in that game, but still yet good enough to pull out the victory against the Charleston Blue Jays last night. Also, Mountain View Liberty over Crothersville, and this is probably the game of the week if you're looking for 2 big teams when it comes to the matchup. Mountain View with a big win, 48-12 over Crothersville. Both of these teams in the top 5 in the state in their respective class, and that's in Class 2. We'll get to those state rankings in the next segment as well, but a big win. Mountain View Liberty over Crothersville. Wouldn't really expect the margin to be like that. I thought it was going to be a close game between those two teams. Both teams bringing a lot back from last year. Seems Mountain View Liberty getting off to a perfect start so far against Crothersville. Scott City over Herculaneum. That game going into overtime, and it was 9-6. Scott City over Herculaneum. Looked like a field goal. looks like. The only thing I can see maybe coming from either a safety. It could be a touchdown, an extra point, then plus a safety. So not sure how that game ended up with a 3-point spread. Also, we've got Portageville over St. Pius out of Festus, and Portageville getting off to a great start, 38-14 victory over St. Pius. And Portageville headed up by Jeff Bullock down there, new coach. I know they're excited about their program this year. So Portageville off to a great start with the victory over St. Pius last night. Malden over New Madrid County Central, 32-6, and this is the first matchup between these two teams since 1999. So going back quite a few years since these two teams faced each other, and Malden opening up with a great victory over New Madrid County Central, 32-6. And freshman quarterback Chapin Riley having a great night, throwing for 2 touchdowns, and can't expect much more from a freshman quarterback coming in with his first game at the varsity level. So a nice performance by the Malden Green Wave last night. Also, Thayer over Hayti, 21-6, and that's two teams been going at it for the past few years, especially in that Class 1 in the playoffs, and Thayer just having the better of the Hayti Indians last night, 21-6. Chaffee over Grandview, 36-14. Chaffee having a pretty good season last year and getting off to a good start against Grandview last night. Perryville over East Prairie, and Perryville getting the shutout over the East Prairie Eagles, 41-0. And just update you with a baseball score from last night. The Cardinals beat the Reds 8-5 in that contest. Cardinals needing to make some ground with the Reds in that National League Central. And those are the scores from last night, and a lot of games that kind of match up to where you can look down the road and see how some teams are going to match up. We got to see Fredericktown and Kennett. Those teams match up in the same district, and that's a whole new discussion when it comes to district play this year. The format has been turned upside down. We'll get to that in the next segment, but different playoff format this year for the state of Missouri, and it's a little confusing, but then again, it won't take much time to get used to, but just a little change when it comes to the high school football playoff format this year. So big games such as Mountain View Liberty and Crothersville, nice matchup there. You probably wouldn't want to see that in week 1 just because two teams coming out fresh on the game 1, but it at least sizes up teams to where we could look down the road potentially in the playoff brackets to where they might match up. So definitely some good matchups in the first week, and we're going to come back and talk about those state rankings, classes 1 through 6 for the state of Missouri. We had some matchups in the state rankings, within the state rankings last night as well, and we're going to be back with Travis Quertermous, talk about some high school football. He was at the Dexter St. John game last night. We'll get some recap on that and talk about the other matchups in the region as well. We'll be right back.
Welcome to NFL Total Access,
the show that takes you inside the locker room and down on the field. With inside access to all 32 teams all year long. NFL Total Access, Monday through Saturday, only on NFL Network.
NFL Network, where football season never ends.
And welcome back. Now we're along with Travis Quertermous, one of our sports contributors here at YHC. And Travis, it's an exciting time. Opened up with high school football last night, and some interesting matchups here in week 1. And you were at one last night with Dexter and St. John, and that's a tough opponent for Dexter to open up with. Just the matter of St. John and the scheme they usually bring to the game. So talk about that game from last night.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get off to the start we wanted to get off to, of course. Took a big loss. We knew that was going to be a tough game going on the road up to St. John, playing on the artificial on turf with an inexperienced football team. And frankly, we just got outmanned on the line of scrimmage. What can you say? You have to tip your hat to the Dragons. They have a monster offensive line. A lot of those boys turned around and played on the defensive line as well. I know my son Logan was playing against a boy by the name of Tirana and was giving up about 6 inches and 80 pounds to him, knocking heads with him all night. So we made the mistakes of inexperience, too many penalties. Turnovers were a wash, 2 apiece. But I got to give our boys and our coaching staff credit. They never quit. They kept playing hard. I thought they played much better in the second half. So some positives, some things to build on, and of course, with an inexperienced football team graduating 18 starters, you're going to take your lumps till you figure some things out. Now, I will say one thing I think that caught everybody on the Dexter side, on the sideline and in the stands, off guard is we were expecting St. Genevieve to come out in their traditional spread offense. And they didn't do that. So they jumped out to a quick 14-0 lead on us while we're basically scrambling to change our defense. And again, with an inexperienced team on the fly, those are hard changes to make. So even in their jamboree, they'd run that spread. So that's the film the kids saw and the coaches prepared for. And they came out in a very traditional, tight end, I-back offense, 2 wide receivers, and just got behind that big offensive line and just took control of the football early on.
That is a surprise. When you think of St. John, you think those 4 or 5 wide receivers and just picking their spots. But a little change up there.
It was, and I said it really, you could see the coaches on the sideline, and they're kind of scrambling to get the right personnel in place. And but again, give the Dexter kids credit. They played hard all night. They never quit. They played to the final snap, and I thought they improved from the first half to the second half, and that's what you want to see. You want to see them keep their heads up, keep playing hard, even though they were way behind at the half, 34-0. They kept in there and they played hard, and I thought for the most part played well. They gave up a late touchdown that kind of made the score a little more lopsided, but it was not a bad first effort. I don't think we played poorly. We frankly just got outmanned.
Sure.
What can you say?
And St. John looks like
you tip your hat to
St. John had a very good team last year, and it looks like they're just picking up where they left off.
That's true. Yeah, they went all the way to the quarterfinals last year. Based on the results of last night, I think they're clearly going to be the team to beat in that Class 3 District 1.
Sure. And talking about, football, you always start with the quarterback position. DJ Dowdy coming in for the first time starting varsity quarterback as a junior, and looks like at times he made some plays and something to look forward to.
Right. I was very impressed with DJ last night. I thought he handled the offense well. He never got rattled. He kept his poise. He was under a lot of pressure, especially in the first half. They're very good defensively as well. He took several sacks, but he made several nice runs. He made several nice deep passes. He was very accurate with his passes. I only remember him overthrowing a receiver once last night. So very impressed with DJ. I think the offense is in good hands. He's going to have a good season.
And he led the Bearcats in rushing with, I think, around 102, 103 yards for the Bearcats last night. So at least he shows that dual threat to where he can move the ball up the field.
And Ryan Joyner, a senior, taking over at the tailback position. We're not as deep at that position this year as we were last year. And Ryan struggled in the first half, but again, he picked it up in the second half. He probably went for 50, 60 yards, I'm guessing. And so I think he's going to be fine as the season goes along. He and Jonathan Foles in the backfield, Brad Wick as well, had some nice runs from the fullback position. So I think we're going to be okay as the season goes along. This team reminds me a lot, Tyler, of the 2010 team that sort of struggled early on and then really pulled it together at the end and made that surprise run deep into the playoffs. Of course, I know we have a different format this year, but I see a lot of similarities between the two teams.
Sure. So it's always a tough opponent. St. John opened up, and it doesn't get much easier. If it does get easier, they got Poplar Bluff next week, and then
Yes.
Poplar Bluff, then Sykeston, and then I think Caruthersville.
Caruthersville after that. So Dexter's
tough
schedule
test.
is very front-loaded. Bless their heart. They've got a tough early season schedule.
Sure, as you say there, Bluff, Sykeston,
Yes.
Caruthersville.
Bluff has
for the
been
next
down
three
the
games.
last couple of seasons, and we haven't played them in a couple years, so that's a big rivalry. I know our kids are looking forward to renewing. I know they think they have a real shot to win that game, but Bluff was very impressive last night against Union. Union was undefeated last year in the regular season. Of course, like us, they graduated virtually all their starters, so that was a young, inexperienced team that went to Bluff last night and took their lumps. But in fact, Union's head coach from last year is now the new head coach at Jackson, and Jackson got off to a great start last night.
They did.
Up in North County.
Yeah, moving to some other games, as I said, Jackson, they've had a rough go here the past few years, and Jackson fans aren't used to that. Jackson's
No.
one of the better programs in Southeast Missouri. They're
That's right.
usually consistent year in and year out, and they haven't been that the past few years. And a new coach coming in, and a little controversy up there over the past few years with Jackson, and got a new coach, got off to a great start, and we haven't seen Jackson 1-0 in quite
That's
some
true.
time.
That's true, and that's a proud school, proud program, football program, and things have not been good up there for them for the last 2 or 3 seasons. I think maybe they've turned a corner. They've certainly got, I think, the right coach to help them turn that corner. So bigger and better things, I think, in store for the Indians.
Sure. And a game probably we kind of dubbed the game of the week when it comes to the matchup was Mountain View Liberty and Caruthersville.
Right.
And a lopsided win in that contest. Mountain View Liberty just put it on the Tigers last night.
That's very true, and I think a lot of us were surprised. Not that Liberty won the game. I know in my mind I thought they would be a slight favorite playing at home in that long 3.5-hour drive for Caruthersville. But I thought a lot of us believed that would be a pretty nip and tuck football game, and evidently Liberty just flat put it on them.
They did, and I knew that was going to be a good game. Both teams in the top 5 in their state
Right.
state rankings, but Caruthersville losing a little bit with Fonda. You
That's
lose to
true.
Fonda, you can they'll be fine for the season, but
That's
talent
true.
such as Fonda, that's going to make a difference. But
They had a real two-headed beast back in that backfield with Fonda and then Monroe, and now Monroe is going to get the bulk of the carries. They've got a young kid backing him up. I think he may be a freshman running back behind him. So that's going to limit them. Their passing game was their weakness last year, and it doesn't look like maybe they've got that ironed out yet. So still some question marks there for Caruthersville.
sure.
And they've got to play Malden next week, and Malden got off to an unexpectedly
Speaking of
big
Malden,
win last night.
win over New Matter County Central, which New Matter County Central been struggling over the past year or so,
Yes.
and matching up with Malden, first time since 1999. They've hit one of those stretches to where they've hit a couple 2 or 3 years where
That's right.
the talent hasn't been there as it consistently has been, and drop one to Malden, and Malden, nice performance. Freshman quarterback coming
That's
in,
right. I think
Chapin Riley, and
when the big news came in that Tanner Murphy was not going to be back to quarterback them, I think, a lot of us thought, long season for the Green Wave ahead of them, and may yet prove to be. They've got a young offensive line as well, starting 3 sophomores down there. But, hey, tip of the hat again. Chapin did a great job. That's
Sure did.
that's a huge step going from middle school to high school varsity, not just freshman JV, but to the varsity. And evidently did a great job. I think turnovers, from what I read of the game, really bit New Madrid hard last night.
sure, that's
And that'll
what'll
kill you
take you
every
out of the
time.
game. Yeah, especially early on. You give the other team possessions. That's all they need is more opportunities to score. So
That's right.
nice performance by the Green Wave last night, and rivalry going back many years. Sykeston and Charleston. Sykeston handled the Blue Jays as they have over the past few years, but not the score that you would expect between those two
That
schools.
was closer than I expected the game to be. I think a lot of us thought that, again, Sykeston would just run away from Charleston, because Charleston's another proud football program that has really struggled in the last few years. They got to the playoffs last year, lost in the first round to Crystal City in a close game, but they again graduated a lot of their key football players. So we thought, well, Charleston probably will struggle again. But again, they say there's no such thing as a moral victory. But I would think the Blue Jays and their coaching staff have to come away feeling pretty good about themselves, only losing. And that was that they were only down by 1 touchdown. Sykeston scored late, I understand, to make it a 2-touchdown win for them. again, I think Sykeston needs to count their blessings. From what the report I read is they turned the ball over 6 times. Usually that gets you beat. And Sykeston too, they lost some key starters, but they lost quite a few members of their coaching staff as well. So I think maybe some things are still gelling, coming together for the Bulldogs, but I'm sure they're going to be all right.
Sure. So Sykeston Bulldogs, they've been past 4 or 5 years, they've been right there in the hunt and pretty much the top program here in Southeast Missouri over the years. So
looks like we need to keep our eye on Charleston too.
Sure. Yeah, and some other teams to look at. Poplar Bluff got a nice win last night against Union.
That's true.
Shutout.
Another proud football program that has struggled over the last couple of seasons with the step up to what they step up to Class X now, I think.
I'm not sure
5.
they made that, or they're at 5. I don't know if they went up to 6.
So they've struggled, but again, looks like good win over a team, Union, that was undefeated last season, but kind of like Dexter, graduated practically their whole starting unit from last year. So, but again, congratulations to Poplar Bluff. Ought to be a great game next week when they come to Dexter.
Yeah,
big rivalry that's hadn't been played in a couple years, so I know everybody be really looking forward to that game.
Sure, and Dexter will have that at home. We'll have that here on YHC Live next Friday night, so look forward to that for our first live broadcast of the year here on YHC. And we even got to see Kennett and Fredericktown. They're playing in the same district.
Right.
Dexter, St. Genevieve in the same
That's
district.
right.
So you kind of get to feel those teams out a little bit.
2 early district rivals that matched up last night in those 2 football games, as you mentioned. Fredericktown is a team that a lot of people think may be a sleeper in the district, and certainly they went down to Kennett and an improved Kennett team, but probably a team that's still going to struggle some. But that's a great win on the road for the Black Cats.
Sure.
So I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this year.
And Portageville got off to a nice start last night. St. Pius went up there, and I think 38-14 was the win there. And Jeff Bullock now, the coach there at Portageville. I know the fans, community, program really excited about this team this year, and they've got some talent, especially when they got Dominique Walker going to be carrying the ball for the Bulldogs, and also I think it's Deion Foster in there. They got some talent to work with this year.
We've mentioned a couple of our football programs in Southeast Missouri that have a proud tradition and have struggled. We'll add Portageville to that list. They've really struggled in recent years, but again, looks like they've turned a corner. Coach McKay down there for years just had such a stellar program, good teams year in, year out. I lived in Portageville, preached down there for a while in the early 90s, and they were always one of the stellar programs in Southeast Missouri. So good to see them get off to a good win. I hope they have a good season. St. Pius didn't win a game last year, and looks like they're going to struggle some more this year. But good win for Portageville, and I hope that really shows they're going to have a good season.
Sure. And let's look at those state rankings for the state of Missouri, and we'll start with Class 1. We'll see some familiar teams in these rankings. Hamilton at number 1 for Class 1. Wellington Napoleon at 2. 3, Valley Catholic. Been up the top of the state in Class 1 the past few years. 4, Salisbury. 5, Tipton. 6, Miller. Actually a two-way tie for 6, Miller and South Harrison. 8, South Shelby. 9, Hayti. And 10, Skyline. So Valley Catholic right up there. I believe they won the state championship last year.
They did. They've won 11 state championships in their history. They play their first game this afternoon. Should be a pretty easy win for them against another Catholic school up there. But they're going to be in the mix all season long. They play St. Genevieve next week.
Really?
Yeah. So that'll be a great football game. Hayti went on the road and took it on the 10 last night. But I think the Indians will make some noise.
Yeah, Thayer and Hayti. That's been a nice rivalry over the past few years, and Thayer's outside of that top 10, so of course next week they're probably going to be in that top 10.
And another Class 1 team in Southeast Missouri to keep your eye on this year's Chaffee. Chaffee went up to Grandview last night, got a big win, and they've adopted the spread offense this year. They've got a young sophomore quarterback they're really excited about over in Chaffee, and I think the Red Devils will make some noise. They were on the cusp of making the playoffs last year, stumbled a little bit down the stretch, but I think Chaffee's going to have a good season.
Good deal. And moving on to Class 2, let's take a look at Class 2. Lamar at number 1. 2, Maplewood Richmond Heights. They've been right up there at the top over the past few years. Mountain View Liberty right there at number 3. 4, Lafayette County. 5, Crothersville. 6, Blair Oaks. 7, Lawson. 8, North Callaway, 9, Holden, and 10, Clark County. So that matchup we saw last night, Mountain View Liberty and Crothersville, number 3 and 5 respectively. Mountain View proved that they're one of the top teams in the state in Class 2.
Oh, no doubt. And I know the Crothersville coaching staff and football players are no doubt disappointed in that loss. Malden's probably going to have a pretty angry Crothersville Tigers team to deal with next week. Of course, they're going to be excited. They got off to a big start, so Malden's going to go in there thinking they can play with Crothersville, and Crothersville, it looks like, better come to play.
Sure.
They got a star in the making down there with Chapin Riley. Malden does, running that offense. So we'll see how that game turns out. I think Crothersville will be a big favorite in that game, but I think Malden showed last night that a lot of us that kind of maybe wrote them off need to think twice.
Right. And looking at Class 3, John Burroughs right there at number 1, runner-up in the state title game last year. 2, Maryville. 3, Cassville. 4, Logan Rogersville, state champs from last year. 5, Oak Grove. 6, Centralia. 7, Richmond. 8, McClure South at Berkeley. 9, Soldan. And 10, Duchesne. So John Burroughs, tough team, have been over the past few years.
Year in, year out.
And it looks like they're going to make another run. Former
St. Louis Rams quarterback Gus Farad is their head coach. A private school up there in St. Louis. And we went up there a couple seasons ago, played them in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. And Tyler, it's like stepping onto a college campus. So there's a lot of it. It's in the old money part of St. Louis, and there's a lot of it been invested in that school and in that program.
Yeah, it's a pretty good recruiting tool. Gus Farad, their head coach.
And they've got a kid that in their running back, his first name is Ezekiel, and I don't recall his last name right now, but he's already committed to Ohio State. This is a team that is just loaded. They came up 1 touchdown short to Logan Rogersville last year in the state championship, and they're going to be a handful for anybody. But now, based on what I saw from St. John last night, they're not in the top 10 yet. They got a few votes in the preseason. Look for them to crack that top 10 before long, especially if they beat Valley Catholic next week.
Right. So look out for John Burroughs this year once again. In Class 4, Webb City on top there at number 1. 2, Jeff City Helias. 3, Harrisonville. 4, Liberty North. 5, Raytown South. 6, Bolivar. Actually a two-way tie between Bolivar and Vashon. 8, St. Francis Borgia. 9, Sykeston. And 10, that's Country Day, Mary Institute of Country Day Schools. So some familiar teams in there. Webb City, of course, they're at number 1.
The reigning kings of Class 4.
Yes.
The state championship always goes through Webb City in Class 4.
It does. Jeff City Helias down the way, Raytown South, St. Francis Borgia, and Sykeston. They're in the top 10, so you're looking at some pretty familiar faces there in Class 4.
And a win's a win as far as Sykeston is concerned. I know Coach Gibbs down there is going to be real concerned about the turnovers, and probably they've got a young offensive line. They've got a kid down there, though, a senior running back by the name of Nick Nichols, and I think he is a kid to keep an eye on. Big, tall, strong kid. Came into their wrestling program as a junior, first-year wrestler, and went to state. Just a real good young man too, good attitude. So I think he's going to be really a player to watch. Going to have a breakout season. One SEMO area team that took it on the chin last night was Farmington.
Really?
They lost to Festus last night by 3 points, I believe, 16-13, and that was a little bit of a shocker. But Farmington lost a lot of kids. They made a pretty good run into the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And they've had a good program up there with the Black Knights, but maybe a little bit of a rebuilding year for Farmington this year. Sykeston looks like they may be poised to take that district championship back.
Yeah, we'll see that. We'll see about that. In Class 5, Kirkwood, 2, Staley, 3, Lee Summit West, 4, Fort Osage, 5, Rockwood Summit, 6, Webster Grove, 7, Hazelwood East, McClure North, two-way tie for 7th. Camden with 9 and 10, Park Hill South, and we don't have any Southeast Missouri teams in there. Not very many teams in that Class 5. I think you're looking at Poplar Bluff and
Jackson.
So not many teams there to compete in Class 5. Class 6, no teams in Southeast Missouri. Christian Brothers College, CBC at number 1, 2, Blue Springs, 3, DeSmet, 4, Rockhurst, 5, Lafayette, 6, Brockbridge, 7 Blue Springs South, 8 Jefferson City, 9 Francis Howell, and 10 Rittenhour. So no teams in Class 6. Well,
yeah, basically looking
big
at St. Louis and Kansas City and maybe a Springfield school or two in there. But, yeah, that's pretty much the big city schools there.
Yeah, of course. So great week 1. Some matchups we really look forward to. And we can maybe look down the line and see how these teams are going to match up. So some things to look forward to in week 2. I know there's going to be some matchups people looking forward to. Dexter, Poplar Bluff, the Valley Catholic, and St. Genevieve. That's going to really be a nice matchup.
That'll be a good football game.
Sure, and they're both out of St. Genevieve. So
right,
it's going to be
crosstown rivals.
Yeah. So be looking forward to that matchup, and we'll have it all here on the roundtable next week to look forward to seeing how all this plays out, and touching on the playoff format, a little different as I mentioned earlier, and how it's going to work this year is typically we've had a district of 4 teams.
Right.
Now they're going to combine 2 districts to make 8 teams, and they're going to play a 9-game regular season schedule, and after that 9 games, there's a point system that's going to be in place for the year. You win, you gain points; you lose points, or if you play a bigger school, you get points regardless of winning or losing. And at the end of the year, how those points stack up, they'll place them in an 8-team bracket with that district, and it's a tournament format beginning that 10th game of the season. So that 10th game of the season, which typically was a regular season game or a district game in the past, will actually be the first round of a tournament going forward. So if you win that district title, you jump right into, is it the quarterfinal round, I believe?
Right. After that, it's more of the traditional playoff format. So we're going to a point system. It's not going to be just strictly seeded on wins and losses. They've got a point system where you are awarded points in 4 categories. Of course, wins and losses, margin of victory, strength of schedule, and then there's a 4th factor that's also thrown in there. So, and then they'll crunch the numbers. Evidently, on the Misha website, they're going to calculate these week to week. I think I've looked at the formula, read a couple of articles on it. It looks to me like you need a PhD in math to keep up with it, especially with the strength of schedule formula. Well,
I think the strength.
We'll see how
if you play a class
out.
up, I think you play a class up.
Right, you get points for that, but then they also have a separate category for strength of schedule.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you're not penalized if you play a smaller school, but smaller schools are awarded points for playing larger schools. So we'll get some points next week, for example, in Dexter, just from playing Poplar Bluff, because they're Class 5, we're Class 3. So that'll get us 20 points, and then they divide that by the number of games you win or you play.
I guess will that adjust as the season goes on? Or I wonder if that's the case too. Well, if you're saying if it's based on strength. How strong the team is record-wise, is that how it is? Or?
I think so. I think that the strength of schedule part, because who knows how strong a team's really going to be? You can say, well, on paper they look like they're going to be pretty good. Yeah,
Poplar Bluff, coming into this game's 1-0,
yes.
And they might end up, 1-9.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You never know.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how that's all going to factor in. And I was reading different articles this week with different area coaches. And I think a lot of them are confused about how this thing's going to play out.
Yeah, I think
it's almost a BCS type of approach. Whether it's an improvement or not, we won't know. Every team at least gets one playoff game. I guess that's a bonus.
Yeah, and the downside of that is it's a 9-game schedule now, so you're either playing 5 home games or 4 away games, or 4 home games and 5 away games. And the thing is, if you're on the bottom half of that district, 5 through 8. After the point system, after 9 games, if you play that game on the road, that 10th game, and lose, you only had 4 home games for the season. So that's the downside.
Dexter, for example, is 4 home, 5 on the road. So you really want to get in that top 4. I think that's the key. You want to be in that top 4. You want to get that first playoff game at home, and then see what happens from there. So we'll just see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I was a little surprised they went with the point system, just because it's basically put together like all the other sports, basketball and baseball.
Right.
They put them in a tournament and they play it out. I thought they would actually leave it up to the coaches to seed like they do the other school,
Right.
like the other sports. But we might see that after a year or two. Yeah,
And you know, and two, I think the system, they're going to have to tweak it obviously from year to year somewhat. One thing that concerns me is that schools are trying to play bigger schools in order to take advantage of the automatic points awarded, whether you win or lose. But that's left some schools with holes in their schedule. Like Caruthersville only has 8 games to play this year, and there's a couple of other teams in the area that are only playing 8 regular season games because they couldn't fill that 9th hole like they wanted to take advantage of the point system. Well, what are you going to do with a school like Dexter, for example, that's kind of locked into a conference full of smaller schools? With Caruthersville and Charleston, for example, those are Class 2 schools. Now, we don't get penalized for playing them, win or lose, if I understand the formula correctly. But at the same time, if you could put another Class 3 school in there, or a Class 4, maybe go up and play a Perryville, for example. You just can't do that.
That's
playing
just
in the conference, you're
kind of the
playing
nature
in.
of the geographics we're in as well.
Exactly.
There's not many
exactly.
populated cities, so yeah, you're going to play more smaller schools.
So I wonder, will you see some conferences reshuffle? I don't know. We'll
maybe
see how this thing plays out in the future.
Maybe the unintended consequence of that too is teams like Sykeston, Bluff, Cape aren't really going to play local anymore.
Exactly.
They'll probably play more St. Louis.
Sykeston is playing at least 2 St. Louis area schools late in the year on their season, and Jackson and Bluff, and really Cape. Look, they scheduled John Burroughs, even though they're a Class 3 and Cape's a Class 4. But still, you're going to see that exactly. More of those larger schools playing more and more out of the area.
Right. So we'll see how it all plays out. It's going to take some time to figure this deal out, but I think they're moving in the right direction. I thought the previous system was a little watered down when it comes to the district and regional round, but I think they're at least in the right direction now. But they can.
I think the coaches are going to have a little bit of say in where the seeding falls. I know I read one article where it said that if 2 teams played head-to-head and the losing team ends up with more points, I think there is a system in place that allows coaches to basically veto a seeding. Mm-hmm. So I think the coaches are going to have a little input in the way the final seeding stacks up, but I think we're all kind of holding our breath seeing how this thing's going to ultimately shake out. I don't think anybody really knows.
Right. So we'll see how it all shakes out. I know we're probably dropping the viewer nuts out there just talking about it. It's so confusing, but
it's a very confusing.
The best way to do it is
complicated formula. I should say.
Best way to do it is just look at the end of 9 games and say, okay, that's what it is, and just go with it.
If you come out of the season 9-0, 8-1, 7-2, you're almost guaranteed a top 4 seed. So wins and losses still matter a great deal.
Sure. Well, Travis, we appreciate you coming in today.
I enjoyed it.
Football with us, and
been looking forward to the season ever since Dexter got upset in the first round of the playoffs last year. So, going to have a good season of high school football in SEMO.
Sure, we got some talented teams out there. We'll be looking forward to covering it all this season. Only 1 week done so far. We got another week 2 coming up next week. Looking forward to those games next week as well. And we're going to take a break and come back with what's going on at Southeast Missouri State. Football season approaching for the Red Hawks as well, and we'll have a quarterback preview once we come back.
In addition to unlimited calling, New Wave telephone users have a wide range of great phone features available. And now with the help of New Wave Internet, they're even easier to use thanks to our convenient online phone manager. Just log on to your MyWave portal. Now phone features like call forwarding can be set up instantly from any computer. Reliably activate or deactivate your call forwarding. And even set your home phone to ring once when a call is forwarded. Home telephone service made even better with New Wave Communications. Call today.
Southeast Missouri Mutual Insurance is celebrating our 100th year. We started protecting rural farmers way back in 1910, insuring folks no one else would. Southeast Missouri Mutual Insurance has been a family business for 4 generations, and we continue that tradition today, providing solid home, farm, and commercial insurance at very competitive rates. When the ice storm hit us, we were out there with you. All of our claims were processed within days, and we will continue to provide the best coverage and the best service for the next 100 years. Southeast Missouri Mutual Insurance, a century of service.
And welcome back, and now we're going to take a look at Southeast Missouri State. They've got their season upcoming, and they're having a little bad luck so far. They actually had an injury to their starting quarterback, or expected starting quarterback, for the season. So we're going to take a look at their quarterback preview for Southeast.
Back here on GoSoutheast.com, today we're featuring the quarterbacks, going with redshirt freshman quarterback Scott Lathrop. And Scott, first of all, a really great scrimmage last Saturday. Talk a little bit about the scrimmage and just your play, getting kind of prepared for Central Michigan in 2 weeks.
Well, I think on the scrimmage, we all came out focused, ready to play. We all knew our assignments. We were coached well. We all knew what we had to do to prepare and execute the plays. And I think all of us as a whole made it easier for me to play well.
Now, last year you redshirted. You got to be kind of under the wing of Matt Scheibel, great quarterback here at Southeast. What's it like having Matt back this year, being a volunteer assistant coach? Does that make you feel a little more comfortable?
Yeah, yes, sir. It's a true luxury. Last year he helped me a lot, and he still helped me. I'm glad he's back. He knows the offense inside and out, and he makes it that much more easier for me to make my reads and stuff like that.
Now you've been here for a year. Has that kind of helped prepare you to kind of step into the starting spot come Central Michigan?
Yeah, I think the redshirt year helped a lot. It helped me establish a relationship with all my coaches, teammates. That way they have a better relationship with me and they have confidence in me. And we just play better together now that we have a good, strong relationship.
All right, Scott. Well, thanks for your time, and we're excited to see you on the field this year.
Thank you.
Joined now by quarterbacks coach Tyler Hennis. Now, Tyler, you lost your starting quarterback, Kyle Schneider. Kind of an unfortunate incident, but it's allowed for a lot of competition. And how are your thoughts after it's been a week, kind of what are your thoughts on the quarterback position?
It's unfortunate what happened to Kyle. He'll rebound just fine, I think. He's having surgery today. But as far as the other kids, we had some young kids step up. I thought Scott Lathrop's done a great job. He's been here for a year redshirted and knew the offense good enough to be able to step right into that starting role and has kind of led our offense with our ones. And it's our true freshman that came in and kind of done the same thing. Blake Jackson and Colby Baker have done a good job, owning up and being a true freshman. Only been here for 2 weeks. And Tyler Peoples has done a very good job managing the offense and, in the pass game is doing very well.
Now, your scrimmage last Saturday afternoon here at Houck Stadium, you had Lathrop and Jackson from Texas take a lot of the snaps. Kind of what were your feelings? They both looked very solid.
Yeah, very solid. As far as Scotty, he knows the offense the best, so he did a lot of great things. The scale of our offense was pretty simplified on last Saturday, so I think we'll step it up a little bit this Saturday and do a little bit of different option stuff that we'll predominantly do on Saturday, so we'll see how they handle that. But I think we kind of simplified it last week as far as making sure when the lights came on, had some people out here. But, Blake is, exceptionally athletic, so, he did his things very well as far as, making plays. But alignment assignment, stuff like that is things we got to, work on. And every day the mistakes we make, we got to make sure we're building on each and every day to make sure we're getting better.
All right, well, thanks for your time today, and best of luck this season.
Thanks.
And as you see there, Southeast going to have a little difficulty at the quarterback position. Their expected quarterback looks like he's gone for the season with an injury, so hopefully they'll have some kids step up and perform well for SEMO this year. So hopefully the Redhawks can put together a fine season in Cape Girardeau this year. And let's take a look at what else is going on. Let's go to our TV schedule. And we want to remind you that we'll be bringing high school football here on YHC for this fall and be focusing on 4 schools. One Dexter here. For the home games, we'll be bringing those live to you. And here's the games we'll be bringing live to you starting next Friday night with Poplar Bluff. And a few Fridays following September 21st, they'll be taking on the Kennett Indians here in Dexter. Later on, October 5th, Charleston. The next week, October 12th, Park Hill Central. And expecting potentially a district first-round game on the 25th as well. So those are the Dexter broadcasts we'll be bringing to you. And also we'll be highlighting Piggott and Portageville. And Piggott games they'll be in action next Friday night against Yellville Summit. And we'll be replaying those games the following Sundays at 7 and Tuesday at 6:30. And expect that game, the Yellville Summit game, to be the following Sunday and Tuesday for the replay. And Piggott will be playing Brookland on September 7th, Earl on September 28th, Osceola on October 5th, and Harrisburg on October 19th. And Portageville, they'll be playing Malden down in Portageville on September 7th, and these games will be on Sundays at 7 and Tuesdays at 6:30 as well, and we'll have one in there on Sunday at 4. The September 21st game will be at Hayti. We'll be traveling down to Hayti for that contest for the Portageville Bulldogs. And 28th of September, Scott City, and that New Madrid County rivalry that's going to actually be the first game playing each other in football, and that'll be in October 18th against New Madrid County Central. So those are the games we'll be bringing to you here on YHC for this season, and look forward to a lot of great football here on your hometown channel this fall. And also we've got the football season coming up. College football, I think, gets underway next week, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, next week they'll get underway. I believe it's Mizzou opening up with Southeastern Louisiana, so hopefully that's a win in the win column there. And also the pros will start in a few more weeks, September 9th, and there's the first week games to look at. Well, actually, it'll start Wednesday, the Wednesday before, with that game on NBC. New York Giants will take on the Dallas Cowboys. Nice NFC East matchup to start off with. New York Giants always, or the Super Bowl champion, always open up on NBC the week of, and that'll be Wednesday night as they take on the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cardinals, staying in the playoff hunt. They're in the wild card hunt right now, but hopefully they'll be making their way up. And St. Louis and Atlanta tied for first in a wild card race so far. So fighting off the Dodgers and the Pirates in that wild card race. And stat leaders for the Cardinals so far: batting average, Yadier Molina at .328, third in the National League. Impressive for Yadi. Home runs, Carlos Beltran was second in the National League with 28. RBIs, Carlos Beltran and Matt Holliday, both tied with 85, leading the National League. Earned run average, Kyle Loesch, third in the National League with 2.61. And Jason Mott with 30 saves now, and he's fourth in the National League. So some nice stat leaders for the Cardinals so far. So hopefully Cardinals can get some momentum going for the remainder of the year, work their way into the playoffs this year, whether it's in the NL Central, which that's going to be less likely. The Reds have been playing phenomenal baseball. They're 7 games out of the Reds after that victory last night, and right there in the hunt for the wild card. So it might actually be the wild card for the Cardinals this year. And don't forget to email us your thoughts, comments, sports@yhctv.com. Be sure to email us each Saturday here on the Roundtable. And, of course, we'll replay it through the weekend and the early part of the next week as well. So keep those emails coming, sports@yhctv.com. And that's the first Roundtable of the season for you. And be sure to tune in each Saturday at 10 a.m. live. And we'll be going all the way through May when it comes to fall, winter, and spring sports here on your hometown channel. So a lot to look forward to next week. More football. We'll be getting into high school volleyball as well for the girls, and also fall baseball, touching on some fall baseball this fall for the boys as well. So a lot to look forward to each weekend here on the Roundtable. We'll have a lot more discussion and bringing you more sports coverage here on YHC. And until next week, I'm Tyler Wagner. Have yourself a great week. Take care.